Well, good evening or good afternoon or good morning, actually. Today is June the 16th, and Graham and I are going to do a little short video for you. And one of the things that has been popping up for me lately is this idea of loving God and obeying His commandments. And this gets back to something that I've been studying for a long time. What does it mean to worship God? And part of worshiping God means to love Him and to obey His commandments. So, Grandma lately has been studying about.
The kings. God gave man kings to rule over them. And I've been reading about some of them. King David, of course, is probably one you might know about. He's the one that killed Goliath with a, what do you call it, slingshot and a rock. Well, he became a king and he was a very good king, although he did sin. But God forgave him whenever he made mistakes and sinned because David loved God. He was very humble. He was very sorry for his sins, and he always worshiped God. Well, one day David died, and God's next king was a son of David. His name was Solomon. You might have heard about Solomon. He was the king that God gave wisdom to. And whenever Solomon had to make a decision or to rule on any kind of a problem, he made good choices because he had the gift of wisdom. But one thing Solomon did not have was obedience. He did not obey God. God told him he was not to marry women who weren't Jewish, and he did. And these women that he married, because he had a lot of wives, back then kings had a lot of wives, they didn't just have one. Well, these women, because they weren't Jewish, they worshiped false gods, gods that weren't real. They were statues and images. And because they started worshiping these gods in his kingdom, he started worshiping also. He still worshiped God, but, well, maybe he didn't worship them. He permitted them, these temples that they built to these bad gods. Our God in the Bible, we always use a capital G. And when you talk about gods that aren't really God, you use a small g. So, anyhow, Solomon unfortunately ended up being a very bad king because of what he did, honoring gods that weren't real and not being penitent. He didn't say he was sorry to God. And that's all I have. That's about two kings. And most of the kings are bad because they're human and they make mistakes, and their biggest sin is disobedience. So I guess what I would take from that is when you read the Bible and God gives you 10 commandments and he says, honor your father and your mother, you don't get a choice. You have to be obedient and listen to them and do what they say because that's God's law. And when we don't do what God says, and sometimes I don't do what God says, and Grandpa doesn't do what God says, because we don't always do what we're supposed to, we are sinning. But we ask God for forgiveness, and He forgives us, and He gives us another chance, a fresh start. So if you do make a mistake, make sure you tell God you're sorry. And if you make a mistake to your mom or dad, tell them you're sorry. And I think that's about it. I hope you're having a blessed day. Grandpa, did you want to end the conversation?
I would like to end the conversation by asking you a couple quick
Oh,
questions.
shoot, here we go.
Well,
I'm
you,
on the hot seat, kids.
well,
I'm
you,
on the hot seat.
you brought up the idea of Solomon not obeying God and worshiping false gods. Isn't one of the Ten Commandments talk about that?
Yeah, the first and second.
Well,
I
can you?
can't remember.
Thou shalt not have any graven image before me. A graven image is a statue, nor bow down to them. And that's what Solomon did. He bowed down to them, and that was a severe thing for him to do. The second one I wanted to ask you about is forgiveness. Didn't David write one of his psalms about asking for forgiveness? Do you know which one that is?
No.
Isn't that Psalm 51, I believe?
You know, tell us.
It's
Don't
Psalm-
ask me. I don't remember.
It's Psalm 51, and it's a psalm of a penitent. A penitent is someone who is very deep down sorry for what he or she has done. And I know there's parts of that psalm that are dear to my heart, and it'd be worth you sitting down with your dad and reading them a little bit. So anyhow,
Psalm 51.
Psalm 51.
I'll have to read it too.
Okay, thank you for this time.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see you in about 6 weeks, giving you the princess wave. I can't wait.